Hey, welcome back everybody. Mary's Cornwall Bakery. I'm Sailor, but you can call me Mary. Today, the most extraordinary quiche recipe, and it's gluten-free. So let's get started. So first of all, it's not going to have your traditional pie crust. I'm going to use grated potatoes to make my crust. So for this recipe, you need 2 large peeled potatoes grated. And you're going to want to grate them first into a colander, or if you don't have that, you can just kind of tip your bowl sideways to let the juice out of the potatoes, because you don't want them too wet going into the pie crust. So before we get chopping around the rest of our stuff, I will grate these up, and that'll give it a chance for the moisture to come out of the potatoes. So yeah, you just kind of grate them up. I love that noise. Be careful with these things. You can take the end of your finger off if they're sharp. I love this recipe because it's just extra. It's over the top. I'm an island girl. I'm always, put an extra log on the fire, add a little extra flavor, make it better, see what you can do. So you might watch this and think that you have some other ideas too. I'm putting sausage in this one. If you don't have sausage or you don't like it, you can use bacon, you can use ham, you can even make a veggie one. So yeah, we're almost there. My potatoes are a little small, so I'm going to use 3 of them. I'll probably have a little bit left over, but that's okay. That is a-okay. I have a nice day here today. Fall is in the air. That's about as far down as I'm going to go with those guys. And so there you go. All nice and grated. And while we're chopping the rest of the stuff, I'm hoping all the moisture will just kind of drip out of that. And we'll begin. So I just have a 9-inch pie plate for this because we're not using a pie crust, and pie crust has shortening in it, so that's why it doesn't stick. But the potatoes aren't going to have any oil in them, so I'm just going to brush a little bit of oil on my pie plate so that the potatoes don't burn to the bottom or stick to the bottom, like kind of cook to the bottom. And, yeah, we'll just do that. And it will also give the flavor a little bit. There, and we're going to hang on to this oil because I have an idea what to do with the leftover vegetables when we're finished. Okay, so that's done. Our potatoes are draining. So now we are going to just chop up a few vegetables and the sausages. So we'll start with the sausages. These are just like a regular sausage that you'd find at the store. These ones have like the casing on them. You can leave it on if you want. It is edible. I like to take it off just because the texture when you're biting into something like a quiche or something soft, you don't want to be like chewing on something. So it is edible. You can leave it on if you're in a hurry. It doesn't really matter. My theory is just because it is edible doesn't mean you have to eat it. So yeah, we're just going to peel this off. It just takes a second. Pretty good. And I'm just going to slice these up. So I'm just going to leave them not super big. Again, when you're chopping something that people are going to be eating, you want to kind of chop it in like bite-sized pieces. So when they bite into it, they don't have this big mouthful that's hard to deal with. So there we go. That's all done. We'll just leave that there. And here. And I'm using leeks today instead of onions because, for one, I love them in quiche. And for two, it's just something a little different that you can think about. So I just use about that much of the leek. This one is washed. The thing about leeks is the way they grow and the way the water is watered on them. Sometimes in the layers of it you will find dirt. So when you're chopping it, and if you see a layer of dirt or sand, you can just, after you chop it, just put the little circles right into a bowl of cool water and just wash them off again and then just dry them. These leeks I've already kind of checked and they're A-okay. A-okay. Just gonna chop them up here. Yeah, so we don't need that much. Leeks are kind of like onions, but they're a little bit milder. There we go, and we have peppers, we have yellow, orange. Today I'm going to choose orange, just because I love the color. It's the fall colors. So yeah, for this I'm just going to kind of go right around. I don't know how you guys cut your peppers, but I always kind of cut the middle out. And then sort of tap it just to get the seeds. I remember hearing once when I was a kid that the seeds were poisonous, but that is not the truth. So don't have to worry if there's a few seeds left in. So I'm just going to cut this up, and again, it's going to be in bite-sized pieces because same. People are eating your food, you want them to be enjoying it. We'll probably only need like maybe a third of the pepper. Don't need a lot because we're putting so many different flavors in that we're just going to kind of add a little bit of everything. So when you bite into the quiche, you're going to be like, oh, nice. And yeah, it'll be very good. So there you go. Probably only need that much. And then in this bowl, I'm just going to slice up these because you're going to have a bit of leftover. There's no use wasting what you have. These are way too expensive for that. So yeah, I'm just kind of cutting these up. Yeah. And these sausages that I bought were pre-cooked. It says right on them gluten-free. So that's nice. Alright, there's that. I'm going to set that over there. So we have our leeks, our peppers, our sausages. I'm going to check on those potatoes and see if they're drained right now. And I'm hoping they are. Yep, there's a little bit out. So I'm just going to give them a little push and get some of that moisture out. And again, this recipe is gluten-free because it doesn't have a traditional pie crust. It just has these potatoes. I don't think it really matters what kind of potato you use. I think I would be tempted to use the driest variety, but I don't know what that is. So I just grab some potatoes from the store and grate them up and hope for the best. Alright, so I think these are good to go. And I have my pie plate here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the potatoes in the pie plate. And I'll just kind of treat it like it's a pie crust crumble. So I'll just kind of put this here. So I'll just kind of spread it around and then bring it up to the edges. Easy peasy. So I'm just kind of digging my fingers into the edges, and I'll worry about filling in the the empty spaces after I get my edges done. First, you want to make sure you have enough to get your edges, because that is kind of what holds everything in place. And again, if you have a couple holes in the bottom, it's not going to make a lot of difference because the egg is just going to cook anyways. So there we go, we have nice edges. And there's a little bit left here, so I'm just going to kind of fill in the holes. Your main part done. Set it down off here. Normally I do run it back and forth to the sink to get my hands washed. For the sake of the video, I'm going to start this way. Okay, so now I have my pie crust done. So now I'm going to add some flavor to it. With quiche, I do not add salt because you have sausages, you have cheese, anything that has onions in it, I find sort of tends to make the salt, whatever is salty in your food, kind of stand out a little bit. So I'm just sprinkling the beer at the bottom with a little bit of pepper. Now, depending on your taste, you can put more or less. I always think of if I was putting pepper on my own food, how much I would like to bite into. So when I'm doing it, I'm thinking, okay, when it's cooked and I'm eating it, how much pepper would I put on my food? So I just kind of go by that. Just got a little sprinkle. And here I have some fresh basil. Oh my goodness, it's the best. I'm gonna pick off probably 4 big leaves. If you don't have fresh basil, that's fine. You can use dry basil. Just fine. If you don't like basil, well, don't use it. But for this, it's really good. So I have like 5 kind of larger pieces. Get a little knife here. And I'm just going to cut this up, not very fine. Just going to cut it so that you might get a bigger piece or you might get a smaller piece. And I'm just going to sprinkle it on the bottom. And the reason that I flavor my quiches, I put the flavor at the bottom instead of mixing it in with my milk mixture is because when you're layering it, your layers can kind of hold that flavor to the bottom and then it doesn't float around and like get unevenly distributed throughout your quiche. So there we go, just like a nice little layer. And I have some parsley here, fresh parsley. Again, if you don't have fresh, that's fine. You can use dried. We use dried parsley here all the time, but for this, we're making it extraordinary, so fresh parsley it is. Let's take the little stems off. And same thing, it doesn't have to be super finely chopped. You can just kind of put it all together. Again, if you're using fresh, sometimes the amount that you need to buy for a couple of tablespoons is way too much. So what you can do with the leftovers, if you know you're not going to be using it right away, is you can chop it up and freeze it. And then you can just use it just like that. So there we go. That was just like a couple of little ends there. I'm going to take a little bit of extra. Chop it up here. The smells when you're making this are just amazing. I wish you could smell the fresh herbs and the peppers and stuff. It's really delicious. So I'm going to put just a little bit in on top of my peppers. You can probably see where I'm going with that. There you go. Okay, so we have pepper, parsley, and basil. Looking good. So now we're going to start our main layering. So I always put my leeks or my onions on the bottom. Not sure why, maybe just the way too much here. But again, leeks are kind of mild, so you can use a little bit more than you might if it was onion. And you just kind of take the rings apart. There you go. Beautiful. And now we are going to layer the peppers. Same thing, just kind of sprinkle it over the top. Layer it just a bit. Like I said before, there's going to be a lot of flavors here, so you don't need to exaggerate one particular one. And now the sausage. So let's put these in the ring around. I don't know, hopefully you can see all that. So this is great for breakfast. It lasts for quite a while in the fridge. Like once it's cooked, it's just all well cooked. Eggs and everything's kind of sealed in with the cheese layer on the top. So it lasts for like a week in the fridge. And it's easily reheated. There you go. So you got all your sausage, you got your nice layers. And now I am going to put the tomatoes on the top. These tomatoes were given to us by a friend, and I've got to tell you, they're garden-grown tomatoes, and when you bite into them, you can literally taste the sunshine. They're the best. So you have a chance to use tomatoes that someone has grown or yourself. It's amazing the difference in the taste. So actually, I'm going to make this quiche for the friend that gave us the tomatoes. So he gave us quite a few. Yeah. I just cut them in half. If you want them smaller, you can cut them smaller. That's fine. I just like them cut in half. Once again, they're cherry tomatoes, so like half a tomato is a decent bite. So now you've got everything in here, and you've got your cheese. So I use a shredded blend, probably about 1 cup, and I sprinkle it evenly across. It's going to look like it's not quite enough. That's where the matzo comes in. I put a layer of matzo over the whole top of this. And the reason I kind of like matzo is because it doesn't brown up quite as fast. And it puts a nice seal on everything. So this takes about 35 minutes or so to cook. So cheese 35 minutes in the oven. It's going to get pretty dark by the time you're done. So that's why I like using the matzo. It doesn't darken as fast in the oven. You got a few extra minutes before it looks like it's overcooked. There you go. Beautiful. It's all nicely layered. Now, for this part, I am going to put the quiche directly on the plate or the cooking pan. My recipe is kind of destroyed there. So I have a couple of tomatoes left. I'm going to add them to this. Like I said, if you're just making one quiche, you're going to have quite a bit of stuff left over, so I think you can probably see where I'm going with this. There we go. Alright, so we've got the quiche on the pan, and now comes the fun part. Slide this over. Get a bowl. Those who know me have often heard me say, make sure your bowl is big enough for what you're doing. This bowl is perhaps a little bit too big, but when you're whipping eggs, you want a little bit of room to leave enough room to get the air into your egg and stuff. So this is going to be 5 eggs. I think a traditional quiche recipe calls for 4, but I use 5 because I don't use cream, I just use regular milk. I think the traditional quiche recipe also has nutmeg in it, which I'm not going to do, but I find that interesting. Okay, so you have your 5 eggs in here, and I'm just going to beat them up. Beat the eggs up well enough that the egg yolk and the egg white are all beat together and you can't see any of the long strands of the egg white. Reason is when you bake the egg white, it's going to stay however it goes into the oven as. So if you have long strands of egg white, they're going to just cook just like that. And your quiche is going to have like different it'll be a little tougher in some spots because the egg white is where your protein is. So what I like to do is beat it up and then just let it sit for a second. Anything that has protein is what kind of holds it, and if you beat it and then let it sit and then go back and give it another little going around, the strands of protein will be more likely to stay the way they are when you pour it into there. So I'm just going to leave it. I don't know if I explained that very well, but I'm just going to let that sit for, it doesn't have to be for like an hour or anything, just a couple of minutes or a minute or even 30 seconds while you get your milk and stuff. So for one quiche, it's 5 eggs and a half a cup of milk. Traditionally, it calls for heavy cream, and I'm really not sure why. I'm thinking that maybe because there's less water content in the cream. So there's half a cup. I made sure it was a nice big half a cup. Use a mixer. If you have too much air in this and you pour it in on top of all your ingredients, it's just going to sit on the top because it's going to be so light. It's not going to sink down and go through all your ingredients. So nice and light and fluffy, but not fluff, I guess. Okay, there you go. It's looking good. You can see the bubbles on the top, but you can still see it has quite a bit of liquid underneath. And then I'm just going to pour it into this. So I just go around the edge. Go slowly. If you pour it really fast, it's going to find a way out and it's going to leak. There you go. That's it. Easy peasy. Spilled a little bit there, but that's okay. There you go. So there it is. You can tell by the weight that there's a lot of liquid in there. So this takes about 35, maybe 40 minutes at a 350 oven. And then you're gonna wanna let it sit for maybe 10 minutes or so before you cut into it, just to kind of let everything sort of settle into place. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the oven, and we'll come back in 35, 40 minutes. When it's all done, we'll cut into it and we'll see what we get. It does look brown around the edges. That's the potatoes that browned up. Now this is, yeah, it's still pretty hot. Just gonna move this over a bit. Well, I'm letting that sit for another couple of seconds. I'm just gonna show you. I had some leftovers. I had a little bit of leftover oil from where I brushed the pan. So quiche and salad, I mean, what could be better? So I'm just gonna make a little salad dressing here. Just have some regular canola oil. And find my knife here. There we go. Just gonna put a little bit of lemon juice, not too much, because we're just looking to taste. And I didn't put the herbs in the oil. I just sprinkled the herbs over top because they're fresh herbs. And again, you can judge better how much you're getting if you just put them directly in. There we go. So we have some lemon juice and some oil in there. A little bit of pepper. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of salt, like a pinch, literally a pinch. And then just put the top on. You can do this however you want. You can stir it up with a fork. I'm just going to kind of shake it up. There we go. Oh my goodness, those lemons smell good. Plate, spatula, and a knife for cutting the quiche. Again, normally I'd be running back and forth to the sink. Go ahead and cut this. Using a serrated knife because the cheese on the top is, it's kind of like nice and crispy. You find on pizza because it's been browned. This is slicing very nicely. Hopefully this comes out of the pan okay. Just going to get the parts that are stuck to the edge, like the cheese and the potato. Just kind of loosening it up so I'm not fighting with it quite as much. There we go. That should be good. Here we go. Moment of truth. Actually, can't wait for this. It's kind of the end of a long day here, and I'm starting to get hungry. The most delicious quiche. You can see the layers. You can see how the oil has browned the potato at the back. So when you bite into that, it is going to be so good. And you have your salad on the side. I might just turn this video camera off and have myself some supper. There you go. potato sausage quiche, a little bit of fresh salad, Mary's Cornwall Bakery, making an ordinary recipe into an extraordinary one. And again, gluten-free. Thanks for watching.